How to debug our code in Minecraft. There are times that your code is not behaving like what it should, and you are wondering what is wrong with my mod, and the normal way of debugging a program will not work. Hello everyone, this is Ali Reza. Welcome to the Mentor Code Lab. In previous episode, we developed this command, and as you see, it's working perfectly. I mean, we can easily remove a lot of blocks from the world just to look around the world and find some things in the game. For example, here I found a ruby, and there I found sapphire. However, things are not correct. Why am I saying that? If we take a look at my code for ore generation, I said that I want 10 veins per chunk for ruby or sapphire. But considering that this is 64 by 64 blocks, if I hit F3G to take a look at the chunks, you see that this is almost 4 chunks. 1, 2, 3.5 here and half there. So this is 4 by 4 chunks. And in 16 chunks, I only find one vein of ruby, and the same thing happens there. In 16 chunks, I just found one vein of sapphire. Now, this is not correct. However, if you look around the web and ask people, how can I debug my code? They say, put a breakpoint and use the debug mode and follow the logic. Well, guess what? In these conditions, it won't work. That is why we have this video. Now, to start the talk, I can divide the errors that you have into different conditions. One is those errors that are related to Java programming. And the second one is the errors that are related to Minecraft and Fabric API. When it comes to Java errors, there are different situations that you may encounter. One of them is that the game throws an exception and crashes. For example, a null point exception. Okay, that is when you have a class name somewhere in the block file with a line that tells you, hey, this line in this class is causing a null point exception. Trust me, many people think that NPE or null point exception is a nasty bug. Well, guess what? It's not, because you know exactly which class and which line, or at least around which line, is responsible. So if that is the case, you will put one of these red dots on the line and it will turn the line in different color, and this is called breakpoint. You can change how the program should behave when it comes to breakpoint. However, the default is good. And then you see this bug button side by side, the run button. You will run the Minecraft using that bug button. What will happen is that the game will run and you will do exactly what you were doing in the previous gameplay that caused the error, so that the game will get to this point in lines and will stop, and it will jump back to IntelliJ. And when it comes to IntelliJ, you can see that, hey, this is the line, and each one of these things will have a value. It's easier to show you how it works. I will find this line for the command, and I will put a breakpoint, and I will run the debug mode. As you see, it's just like any normal Minecraft game. It will come up, and now you can go into the world, and we know that it's part of the command situation. So I will move it to the side just in case, because sometimes it won't jump to the IDE and finding it is a little bit harder, but moving it to the side will help us there. So I will just go and find a section that is not being used. Oh, actually, I can use it right here, but let's say that I really want to mimic the process, okay? So I will move to a section that is not being used. And now I run the same command, dclr space all, enter. And you see that the game is minimized. I came back to IntelliJ. The red dot has a check mark on it, And there are some info below. And this is the debug panel. Now let's talk about how we can use the debug mode. The very first part of debug mode that you can use is the code itself. Now, if you look, there are grayed out text all over this class and this method. From the very beginning, we get this context, that is command context at sign 30 22 0. If I open this arrow, I get some more info, and that shows me that, hey, this was the context that's sent in to this method. Now it has some information. But take a look. For example, the child is null. The modifier is null. So if I had a null point exception around this line, I could easily see that, hey, my child is null and modifier is null. There is nothing null other than these two, and maybe one of these two are responsible. However, we didn't have null and we passed into the command. Here we see that the TYP that I sent in is all. I can open it and it's text, by the way. Moving down, you can see each condition. And here is one more thing. If I move my mouse on TYP variable now, a window pops up and shows its value. For example, if I want to see the context here, move the mouse, wait, every information is available. Get source, move the mouse and wait, and it will show you the Java doc. Okay, send feedback, again, it's a command, and there is nothing else to see there. However, blocks. When you have a logic like this that is complex and ternary inside ternary, sometimes it's good to see the final result. And this is the final result. Blocks is oak, spruce, birch, blah, blah, plus 132 more. If I open it, I can see every value here, and it still says 37 more. So I know that, okay, I got the blocks, for example, and if I know the count on the block clear list, I can easily identify if they are the same or not. And how can I do that? I move the mouse on block clear list. This is 101 more. So 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106. This has more than that. We know that we added some things on top of the block clear list and we sent it to the blocks. Of course, you can move your mouse on blocks and wait and you get everything. This goes on and on. So here I find the player and here it's position, the word, everything. And here you see that I can get the server, the player, the min x, max x, min z, max z, and each one of them has their own values. So you can see the values here. And then finally, when we get here, you can see the final command. The command is fill 164 minus 64, 42, blah, blah, blah. Minecraft Obsidian replace Minecraft kelp plant. Okay, remember in the fluids, kelp plant was the last one because we looped through everything, and this is the last value that we were using for the command. And that is why we see kelp plant there. Okay, so this for loop worked, and now we are here. So we know that the blocks is this, but what is the block now? You see that we are working on o'clock. It is telling us that, hey, if we execute this line, the final command should change. But now, before executing it, from the previous loop, command is this, and it has kelp plant. Okay, now we want to move to the other section before going forward. This panel is the same information in different way. For example, here's the server thread, here's the Lambda that we created, and run executables. And as you see, we can move downward and get many different things. And this is the stack trace. So here is the run, here is run with, and we move upward. So from down upward until we go to the command. This is the process that the program had went through until we got to the breakpoint. So now we are in the process running of the server thread lambda command. Okay? And these are the information inside the class so far. We have the TYP, the blocks, player, server, position, main. These are variables that I defined. Okay, so I can, instead of looking through all of this code, I can easily look through this panel and see the variables I defined and their value. Now, I want to see what will happen if I execute this single line. Here are few very critical buttons. The first one is go over. If I hit this one, the program will execute this whole line and will stop at the start of this line. This one is go into. For example, here says command manager.execute. If I hit go over, it will execute it and will wait at the start of try. But if I say go into, it will go into the command manager class, into the execute with prefix method, and will stop at the first line of that method. So you can go one line after one line following the logic of everything. For example, at some point, I decided, okay, I had seen enough of that command, just come back up, back to this command and continue and wait on command manager. After I went into something, I can go out of that. And finally, I can hit the play and it will ignore the rest. It will execute everything and it will wait again on the next hit on this breakpoint. And of course, we can say, hey, refresh the whole debugging process. So it will stop the game, relaunch the game on debug mode and everything. And we can stop everything. It's equivalent of hitting a stop up there. Okay, I want to go one line below. So I will say go over. And you see that it won't go to the command manager. It goes one line after one line. So up until now, I see that this command is not changed. It is still kelp plant. So I will go down, 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 and you see that it is showing the different variables that is being replaced. And finally, when I get here, now I can say that, hey, I want to see the command, and the command is now oak log. And I, of course, got the command source, and I can continue the logic. So I can go into try, and you see that it is jumping into the try, waits 5 milliseconds, it goes into the catch, and it goes off, okay? And it will continue the loop, so on and so forth. So if at any point I have a problem, I can easily identify where is the problem using this breakpoint. This helps when you have null point exceptions or when you have a problem that you know the area of the code that is causing it. For example, in this case, if it wouldn't clear the ground correctly, I would think to myself, okay, did it put that obsidian walls? Yes, it did put 4 obsidian walls correctly. So we passed through this first for loop, but we are not breaking the rest of the blocks. The problem is here. That is when I would put a breakpoint here and go into debug mode and try to find the logic at least for, I don't know, 10, 20, 30 blocks to see what is the problem. Maybe I would find the problem here. Sometimes it won't help. And that is when putting a debug mode fails. And the rest of people in YouTube don't tell you how to debug these situations. At any point that you have a problem in Java logic, putting a breakpoint can solve it most of the time. There is another approach that can help. For example, you put a breakpoint, you follow the logic, you even go into other codes like executing with prefix and coming back, and you can't find the error. However, you are sure that it is related to the logic of Java programming, and this comes with practice. That is when you can use a technique that old programmers call it Dear Teddy Bear. If you go into Discord channel for Fabric and their dev channels where people are talking and asking for help at least 2 or 3 times a day, you will see that someone comes in, asks a question. There is someone that can help. He starts talking. The guy with the problem starts explaining the problem, and immediately he says, wait, 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 wait. I think I found the problem. And he solves his own problem. Now, what did happen? The helping hand didn't do anything other than listening. The solution came when the programmer started explaining the problem. That is when we say, hey, talk to your teddy bear. Basically, teddy bear here is an imaginary third person. You start explaining your problem to someone and you will find your own problem, because when you start talking about the problem, your unconscious mind comes to help. And sometimes you find the error in your logic, and that's it. So before going into the forums and Discord pages, bothering people, especially when you are sure that the problem is inside Java, start talking with yourself. Try to explain the problem to someone that is not there in the room. Sometimes it helps. Now, if this didn't help, so you put a breakpoint, didn't help. Try to explain the logic, didn't help. That is when the normal way of debugging a problem will fail and most people come asking for help. However, there are two more steps that you still can do before going and bothering others. Now you see that I use lots of logging when the game is launching. These are all my log messages inside the game logic. When I was developing this command in R&D, it was not working. Well, what did I do was adding the first command, tried it and it worked. Then I said, okay, I know what I'm doing. So I added the for loop, I added all four commands, and I ran the game and it was not working. So at this point, yes, I could put a debug point and try to figure things. And I did that. So I did try to figure out if I'm doing something therapy, but after 3 or 4 iterations of the loop, I saw that, okay, the block is changing, the command is properly changing, everything is okay. So why isn't it working? That was when I started using logging inside here. So I just said that, you know what, do a log file for me. So something like log from reference, log n, and I started sending a text message for myself. For example, I logged the command. Each time I was changing the command, I was logging the command. Whenever I was running the game, I had tens of these messages at the bottom, and I could compare them to each other as a text. It was easier than putting a debug point because I wanted to see all these commands side by side, and it didn't help. I thought to myself, okay, the logic is okay. I logged the command, and the command is okay, but it's not working. And that was when I thought to myself that, hey, wait a minute, I'm sending at least 10 commands, one after another, by each tick. I mean, think about it. I have one iteration of this loop, and I'm sending 4 commands, and then another iteration, 4 commands, another iteration, 4 commands, and in one single tick, I was sending 40 commands to Minecraft. Okay, that was a problem there. And Minecraft would execute none of them. Maybe the last one of them, I don't know. I can't remember. So I thought to myself, okay, I need to somehow hold the game and let the first command execute. That was why I started trying adding the thread sleep. Now I added the thread.sleep outside of this try loop like this, and I saw that I have an error here, and it says unhandled exception, Java lang interrupted exception. It means that if I had run the game like that, I would immediately get a crash with an error called interrupted exception, because wherever you see this exception word, it means a game crash for you. So I just put a try and catch around it so that whenever this error happens, it will just pass through it. But this trick did the thing and the game worked. Until that point, I was tweaking my code using debug points, using logging for over an hour. And finally, I got it working. Now, this is the good part. Sometimes the error can't be found like this. And that is when the problem is not in your Java programming, and it's not something like this related to Minecraft itself. It is related to using the Fabric API. Now, before talking about this part, remember to tell your friends about this channel and help me grow this channel's community. And if you want to donate something, I will appreciate it. I can accept donations using cryptocurrency. The link is in the description. Now, if you remember the last video, we had OR generation and this command worked. And as I show you at the start of the video, the OR is not generated properly. That is when you will have a problem. Because if you start adding breakpoints, it won't help. We know that the OR is generating not the correct amount. So putting a breakpoint to see what it's generating after all. By the way, when it comes to something like OR generation, the only entry that you can use is here, registering word generation. And it is being registered. So I know that when I come back to my code and inside registry word generation, I am running this log file. So I am generating these codes and I'm going to the next one. So I know that these are all executed and one of them is OR generation. Okay, registering OR data. I should see this log. Here we go, registering OR data. So I am hitting it here and I'm going out of it because I'm now registering the tree data and all these geode or tree, flower, all of them are coming from this word generation. So I'm passing through them one after another. So I know that all of this is being executed correctly. Game is moving forward. Why the OR is not working? Because if I come and put a breakpoint here, it won't help. It is just saying, hey, add a feature for the overword with this feature, and that's it. This is when the normal way of debugging the game and your program will fail. Now, this is the nasty bug. Finding these sort of bugs are really hard. You may find the bug fast. Sometimes there is a typo here. For example, I forgot to change something here. For example, instead of or citrin placed key, I was copy pasting and I used Ruby. So I just come and fix the copy pasting. That's the very first step. If the problem is somewhere that you used copy paste, sit back and read the code word after word, line after line, and check that you properly changed everything. That is the very first step. Sometimes it helps. But in this case, I checked, okay, I have Citrine, Ruby, Sapphire. Correct. So that was not the problem. This is not the problem. I don't have anywhere else to go, at least not on the program execution. This is where you should learn how the Fabric API was working for you. Before running the game, when you are generating the OR, you are using DataGen to provide these JSON files for you. That is one step that can cause problems. Let's dive into. So this is Citrine. I start reading line by line the JSON file because sometimes there is a chance that there is a bug inside Fabric itself. Small chance, less than 0.5%, but well, it's worth it. So it's Minecraft OR type. Okay, chance of exposed to error is 0. Should it be 0? We will talk about these things later. Size is 8, so I was using 8, okay, and it's OR world Citrine. That's correct one with my mod ID. Tag matches anything that or replaceable on the stone, correct, and deep citrine for deep slate or replaceables. So that is correct. So why don't I see any citrine in the word? That is configuration. Now I come to place feature. I open it. I'm putting or citrine. Okay. Rarity filter, 90% chance. Okay. This is in a square, height range, uniform. Now I changed the codes on debugging, by the way. I started using the above button. I thought that may be the problem. And I started from 5 up to 110 from the bottom of the board. And that didn't help. But whenever I changed this number, and I changed it to a very big number, by the way, that was when I saw the very first OR being generated in 16 chunks. And I thought to myself, okay, it's not behaving the way it should be. But before I get there, as I told you, I was playing with these two, with the DataGen configured feature and place feature because this is exactly where the problem is. I know that it's there because the OR is generating. I can see the execution, but it's not generating correctly. Why it's not generating correctly? Because I generated some wrong data. Okay, so the very first step was to come and check configured features and place features. Let's read the lines one after another because there was lots of copy pasting here. Or string key, that's correct one, and or string, that's correct one. Then Ruby and Ruby, Sapphire and Sapphire. So everything is okay here. So far, so good. Coming down, I check stone replaceables, deep slate, nether, and that's correct. Overwatch citrine ore is ore citrine and deep citrine, stone and deep replaceable. That's okay. So at least the citrine one is okay. Coming back down, citrine key is overwatch citrine ore. Okay, 8 per vein size. That's correct. Now I used 3 before, but for overload, I'll use 8. That's okay. And these are helper methods. So configured features are totally correct, at least for overworld, Citrine, Ruby, and Sapphire. Close. Coming back to place features, I started reading. Okay, or Citrine place key is place features of or Citrine place. Okay, Ruby, Ruby, Sapphire, Sapphire. These are nether and forget about them for time being. Citrine placed using citrine key, that's correct. 10 veins per chunk, that's correct. And this was where I started modifying. I used fixed before, then I tweaked it to use the above bottom 5 and above bottom 110, and I rolled it back to the code. So everything is okay, isn't it? Coming back down, and these are helper methods. Okay, I didn't find the problem here. So looks like everything is okay to me. The next step is to look how vanilla is doing things. Now, we'll have a long video about how we can track things in vanilla, but in this problem, we have two JSON files because all this mumbo jumbo code is responsible of developing these JSON files, configured feature and place feature. So you can easily find them in vanilla. Going to net Minecraft, Minecraft merged, open it, data, Minecraft WordGen, you have place feature and configured features. So you open them and you find an OR that is really familiar to you. For example, let's go with OR gold. If I can find it, open it. You see that it's Minecraft, or you remember I asked if chance on air exposed should be 0 or not. Yes, it should be. Okay, that's okay. So I know that that part is correct. Then I know that it's 9 ore per vein size. Okay, mine is smaller or bigger. That doesn't matter. Then the name is gold, tag matches, stone replaceables. For deep slate is deep slate replaceables. Looks like my JSON for the configured features are correct. Let's go for the next one, placed features. Let me open mine and we look at them, if I can, side by side. This is gold, worried, okay. This is or citrine, that's just the name of feature. How will take a look. The placement type is Minecraft count. Mine is Minecraft rarity filter. Wait a minute. The count is 4. Mine is 90 or 80 or whatever. It's wrong. This part is totally wrong. The rest is okay because, well, I'm used above, bottom, or absolute. That doesn't matter. Trapezoid or uniform. That doesn't matter. That's the OR distribution. The problem is right here. The type of placement that I'm using. When you get familiar with API, you will understand that rarity filter is not behaving like counting in a chunk. It's just a chance. And it's 1 divided by a number that should be integer. So if I send 10, it's 10%. And it is generating a random number generator each time it wants to generate the OR, and it checks if the chance is 10% or not, basically. So for each chunk, I get 10% chance of generating the OR. And that is not what I wanted. Okay, now that I found exactly where the problem is, in the JSON file, I need to figure out where the problem is in my code. So I found the problem in JSON. And I know that it is a part of placed features. So I come back to the mod placed features and start reading the code. Now, this time looking for the rarity word, mod or placement modifiers with rarity. Middle mouse click here. And of course, it is using a rarity filter. Now I want count placement. Looking back at my code, I immediately find count placement. However, take a look at my method name. Long ago, when I was developing my temp mod at the very start of series, I derped and changed this name to modifiers. However, I should name it modifiers with count. And this is what I should have been used for OR generation and place features. So count placement modifiers, that's exactly what I want. So change these guys, and now I have to regenerate my data. So I found the error not by using breakpoints, not by using logging, not by explaining the logic because everything was okay, not even by trying and tweaking the numbers to figure something, because that sometimes helps. Only found it when I tried to compare the result of my generation to vanilla. And that was a very careful observation there because one single word was different. And now if I open it, finally it says Minecraft count. Now 10 is large, I know, but let's run the game and see if that really do something. So until the game comes up, let's wrap things up. Now things are different in order at the end of the video because that is how I found problems easier. First, look for those places that you copy pasted in your code, especially around the logical points. So you should know where the problem is. You look for copy paste, like what I did for placement features and configured features. I looked for copy paste errors. That was my very first step. The second step is to look for logical errors, programming wise. So put a breakpoint, use the debug info. If that didn't help, try to explain the logic to yourself. Everything was working. Try logging some information in the case of commands, for example, or string manipulation. Logging those strings help a lot. See the final result. And finally, if nothing worked, try to compare what you're doing to vanilla. And sometimes that helps. Only if nothing worked, then go and ask for help inside Discord channel. That's very critical. I had seen people go in other people's Discords, for example, mine or another guy's, and we have a chat room for Fabric help. And they come there and ask critical questions, and they don't get answers because, well, we are not all knowing guy. But when you go into Discord channel for Fabric itself, there are two rooms and one forum room that you can ask for help. There are tons of dedicated people that can help, and they are professional mod developers, and they come and tell you that, hey, look for here, or look for that part of your error. For example, last day I was updating Minecraft to 1.21.1. I did update my dependency mods. I found a nasty bug. It was yelling at me that, hey, I can't sync the Gradle because I need 1.7 version of Loom. So I changed the 1.6 to 1.7 and it didn't update, constantly yelling at me that, hey, I can't find the Loom. I did try everything and it didn't work. That was when I went into the room and asked. Someone told me that, hey, did you use the correct files from template generator? And that was when I thought, oh, wait. I did copy the numbers from the template generator, but I didn't copy the Gradle file. So I did remove the Gradle folder, the Gradle files, and copied them from the template into the folder of the project, close the project, reopen the project, run the Gradle sync, and it did work. And Minecraft updated. So that was when asking for help from people did actually help. Don't forget that. Okay, I cleared the blocks, I cleared the water, and look around yourself. I can easily identify citrine, ruby, and sapphire, and there are tons of them around. So normally I would look for deeper layers because I'm not digging down a whole chunk right now in normal gameplay. And I would think that, okay, what will happen if I start digging a tunnel? And this, by the way, is four chunks. How many ores I may encounter in one digging for four chunks? One batch, one batch, one batch, two, actually three, and two. So that's a lot. Do I want to find all these ores in one tunnel for four chunks? Maybe not. And that is something that we will talk about it later in another video. Balancing your game. These many gems are really overpowered in my mod, and you will see why I said that later when I'm developing the logic for the game. However, take note that the obsidian is generated for lava, so it cleared the perimeter for me. And these waters are a little bit problematic, but as you saw, I just cleared the chunk and I just ran the command again for clearing the fluid after all. And it did clear the water and every fluid again, but every now and then you will see one piece of water source like this that is running away, and well, it's easy to clear that. But the main purpose of this thing is to help you find the distribution of your ore generation inside the game. And of course, you can add more lists to this command and, anything that you want. For example, if I find that the ore that is generated by Tech Reborn is causing a problem, I can either disable Tech Reborn, as I did between the pause in the video and coming back in the previous videos. If I open the build.gradle, you will see that I commented out the Tech Reborn, refreshed the Gradle, got rid of the ores so that I can check my ore distribution. Alternatively, I can come back into the command list and I add, for example, another list that is related to Tech Reborn. For example, I can do that. That's it. However, now at the end of this episode, I will add something as a bonus for those who waited until here. If you pay attention, we are adding a command to game that every single player can execute in their game. And it's basically making a fast query in the world. Is that what we want? No, we definitely don't want this command happen outside of our development environment. So we have two different options. One, add the command, test our ore generation or distribution, and when it's final, get rid of this whole thing from here up until the end and the list on top. Or alternatively, we can add something. And this is a bonus for those who waited until this point. It's not a debugging issue, but it helps as a developer. And that is why I'm putting it here. We can say if fabric loader dot get instance. This returns the instance of Fabric API that's running inside the game. And now we can check if is development environment. If it is development environment, then and only then add this command to the game. That means that if I run the game inside IntelliJ IDEA, this situation will return true. The command will be registered. However, if I compile my mod, put it somewhere in Modrinth, for example, people download it, put it inside their game. Now that is not a development environment. And this will return false in their game instance. The command will not register at all. And it's not existing. So people can't even cheat. And that's the beauty of it. This is one single thing that you as developer may want to use and utilize every now and then in corners of your mod. For example, some debugging information can happen with using this. For example, I can say it on top of any one of these logs. If it's development environment, then put this register commands inside the log or any of my log files that I'm just adding inside the game, like these. Because let's face it, it's not usable by any player. So I can just use them as part of my development environment, just log them inside IntelliJ IDEA, and people who download the mod will not get any one of these error logs or any one of these information logs, and that helps cleaning the log file. Maybe the only one of the log files that I will let people see is this first one that says my mod is initializing. Because if I see it in a log file in the game and it passes and the game moves on, I know that everything in my mod was initialized and registered and worked and blah, blah, blah. So one single entry is more than enough, because if after these initializations I see, for example, it is saying that, hey, this line from Minecraft backend registry, blah, 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 for LWJGL, then I know that, yeah, my mod is initialized properly. Instead of adding those if cases in every one of these logs, can I use it in reference? If I want to, I can come here and find this log, because I'm using that log method. Where was it? Here on top. And in here, well, I have this debug definition that I can change it inside the main, but I don't know. I can add that if statement here, and that would help. Or alternatively, I can just say that this is not final, remove that, and here I say debug equals to this, and I will remove the if statement. And this way, I make sure that, hey, if I'm inside development environment, then I'm using the debug. If I'm not in the development environment, I'm not debugging any information. This causes a little bit of problem, because this part, the initialization, is actually using debug. So instead, I will copy this one. As I said, I want to see this very first info, and I will put it here. I will use reference.logger, and this is the message. So cut it from here, add it here. This is RF, GF, BF is 0, RB, and BB. So BB is 127. Okay. I have one last error, and that is this, and that can be fixed with reference dot. And using this way, I just separated the very first log from the rest of them, and I just used the debug instead of anything else, and I'm just basically caching the environment situation so that I can just read my own variable. Because let's face it, this is two method calls. I may have tons and tons of these log files as debugging process, and I don't want to run these two method calls every time, when I can just cache the result once and then read the result over and over. This was the last thing actually related to debugging, because as I said, none of these messages help anyone playing the game, but helps me debugging my mod. If you like these videos, please subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and turn on that bell so that when I publish a new video, you will get informed. Have fun, everyone. Bye.